And between the Wolverines and the Lions, JP Morosi might combust right now. Am I right or am I right? Good morning.
Lauren, yes, good morning. I'll say this, and we'll get to the Hall of Fame later, but my number one plan for Sunday as I travel to Cooperstown is I've got to find a place to watch the Lions play their second playoff game of the year. These are things, Lauren, for a long time I have never had to think as I negotiate and navigate my Cooperstown travels. Where can I watch the Lions in the playoffs? This is a new era indeed.
When I saw Ford Field chant, Lose Yourself with Eminem, the 80s baby in me was just freaking out. Let's get to it. I don't think Cody Bellinger is going to the Tigers, that's for sure. We need to keep you humble, but he is certainly still available. And Dansby Swanson said, we want him. We want him back. Where does it stand right now?
Well, Lauren, I do think that at this moment, the Cubs are the team with the best chance to get Cody Bellinger. And it's certainly not close at the moment. I want to make sure that I clarify that. But you look at the landscape. When the offseason started, we talked about the Giants. We talked about the Blue Jays. Well, the Giants have since added Jung-Hoo Lee. The Blue Jays have since added Kevin Kiermaier. So those two teams, they reduced their need for Bellinger. Whereas the Cubs, when you talk about their lineup, at the moment, they've got Tauchman in center and Bush at first. So either one of those spots, Bellinger would be an upgrade in terms of his stature, what he's been able to achieve in the game. You see what he did last season, comeback player of the year in the National League. So for so many reasons, Lauren, the Cubs remain interested in Bellinger. Could we see a team like the Angels step forward? We'll see. But again, for right now, I don't see a better fit in the major leagues for Cody Bellinger than the place where he played in 2023.
And played very well, might I add. I love how he dominated Cubs convention just because of the talk of him, and he wasn't even there. We talk about stars still out there, JP. Josh Hader, I mean, he walks in the door and the entire team is fired up. You heard H and Steve talking about if the Rangers re-signed Jordan Montgomery and got Josh Hader, it puts them right there for a repeat. Where do things stand right now?
Yes, Lauren, well, let's consider both Josh Hader and Robert Stevenson together because those are the two top free agent relievers still on the market. And I do believe in Hader's case, the Rangers are the team we're hearing the most right now. Could we see a team like the Cubs with that relationship to Craig Counsell? Perhaps. I think we have to keep an eye on that possibility. But Stevenson, to me, might actually have the broader market because we've talked about the Astros, for example. They have Presley, but they don't really have someone like Robert Stevenson who could potentially be in the eighth inning, especially in light of the news that Steve and Harold talked about off the top of the show with Kendall Graveman and the other departures for the Astros. Here is what the board looks like at the moment, all the different free agent possibilities. I would also mention one more team that I've heard is connected to Robert Stevenson, the New York Yankees. The Yankees, a team that we talk about all the pitching they gave up to bring in Juan Soto, and they do want to replenish and add back to their depth. I do think Robert Stevenson as a dominant late inning reliever. You saw what he did with the Rays after the trade. I think he'd be a tremendous fit with the New York Yankees.
Ask Yankee fans, they want Hader too. They want all of them. JP, T-minus 6 days? The countdown is on until the Hall of Fame announcement right here on MLB Network. Your ballot, I feel like, shows your heart, right? The more the merrier. You're a large hall guy. Remind us of your ballot now. You're laughing. You know
yes, Lauren, thank you for those kind
You're
words.
welcome.
I appreciate it, and you are right, my friend. I am someone who votes for the 10 most deserving players, in my opinion. Beltran, Beltre, Helton, Hunter, Andrew Jones, Joe Mauer, Jimmy Rollins, Gary Sheffield, Utley, and Wagner. And here I want to really focus on the man who has the best polling numbers so far, according to Ryan Thibodeau, and that is Adrian Beltre. Beltre is someone who did not make his first All-Star team until the one season he spent with the Boston Red Sox. He was in his early 30s at that point, Lauren. And I mention that because often we talk about the trajectory of a Hall of Famer, and is it always obvious when they're 23 or 24? In the case of Beltre, he arrived to the majors when he was still a teenager. You see some Dodgers highlights there. Of course, he was the MVP runner-up in 2004, but he did not become a Hall of Famer until he joined the Rangers. And that was when, in that second half of his career, he began that journey to 3,000 hits, the Gold Gloves, all the top 5 and top 10 MVP finishes. He made himself a Hall of Famer in his 30s. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us who vote.
Kids,
and
right?
certainly for all the players and all the kids that listen. It's not who you are at 18 or 25 or even 30. There's a longer journey. And when Beltray makes it, and I think it's very clear that he will, it's going to be a tremendous achievement of what he did for longevity. Longevity is the word, and that's one thing that we celebrate in Cooperstown.
And Keith just told me, first-time All-Star in 13th season will be the latest ever for a Hall of Famer. You talk about trajectory. It's always around this time. You know this. We talk about trends. Who's trending upward? What's your answer to that question right now? A couple days away.
Well, Lauren, we thank Ryan Thibodeau for the great work that he does at putting together the ballot tracker, because this is so much fun to look at. As we mentioned, Beltray at 98.8, it's a virtual certainty that he's getting in. The name on this list that stands out to me the most is Joe Mauer, debuting now in the 80s. And sometimes you see those numbers drop by 5 or 6%, but when you get to 82, as he is and as Todd Helton is, you've got a little bit of a cushion to where it's now possible that we could see Joe Mauer be a first-time elected Baseball Hall of Famer. And I think there's been in recent years, Lauren, a general belief that Mauer will get in eventually. I'm not sure how many predicted he would have this high of a total this quickly. But what it says to me is that we as voters, and I'm happy that Joe has this number because I voted for him and believe he deserves it, is that we have to look at this generation of player distinctly. Players are not playing quite as long as they once did. And so Joe Mauer's peak, 3 batting titles in 4 years, all as a catcher. That is a historically unique achievement. And I'm glad to see that my colleagues who vote are now moving more towards rewarding the special peak, historic achievements, and not necessarily worrying in every case how many years you played.